All right, we're back. We are COMP123, that's Programming 2 at Centennial in the summer 2019 semester, and we're week 8, part 2 of our broadcast. We're going to talk about more about user interface controls and some GitHub integration, okay? That's this part. So we talked about Git and GitHub in the previous video, right? And now what we want to talk about is how to integrate everything with your project. So I'm going to go to File, New, Project. And again, I'm going to be looking at my desktop, messy as it is, looking at my COMP123. That's going to be my main repository, right? And notice that over here on the right, it's going to say create new Git repository for me. For you, it might say add to source control. Please make sure you click or select add to source control or create new Git repository. If you don't, some of the things I do will be different for you. Next, I'm going to name my project. And remember, my naming convention that I'm using is COMP123-Summer 2019-Lesson 8. Okay? And you guys are 8A, because you guys are the A team. Also notice something else. .NET Framework 4.71. Someone earlier today said they had .NET Framework 4.6. Yeah. Not cool. So how do I change that? If I go to here, and if I go to Visual Studio Installer, right? And if you have Visual Studio 2017 or up, you'll see that if I modify Visual Studio 2017, and if I go to individual components, I want to select these other things. Don't do this now if you've got 4.6.1. Do it later, right? Because it takes a while to download and install this stuff. But you want to be, when we come back, make sure you have 4.7.1 and 4.7.2 installed, okay? 4.6 something is, might cause version differences between yours and mine, and that would be bad, okay? So please make sure you upgrade at least to these ones. Okay, but let's assume that you all have 4.7 or 4.7.1 or something like that. I'm going to click on Windows Forms app. I'm clicking on Visual CSharp, just like we did last day. I'm going to press OK. It's going to bring up my form. Okay, this is for you to do. Let's see if you guys can do this. You have 3 minutes. Here's your test for yourself. Okay, this is not a time test for marks. This is a time test for you, right? I want you to change your window to 640 by 480. I want you to change the background color to light gray. Get going. I want you to change the title of the window to Lab 08. I want you to change the form name to Lab 08 form. Okay? I want you to make sure that the window appears in the center of your screen, not on the top left corner like it appears normally. Go. You have 3 minutes. If you can't do it within 3 minutes, don't worry. It's a safe learning environment. But it's a good test for you to understand that you don't know everything as good as you'd like to right now, right? It won't take long. So what it means is you don't know where to start, right? A list. You want a list for me? Okay, I'll do a list here.
I tried to look into your YouTube. There is no audio.
I know. I had a problem.
I tried to listen to do the practice.
I know. It's my fault. I know.
So
size.
You could do it again, please?
6. I can't do it again, but I can do it. 640 by 480. Okay. I want your background color to be light gray. Right? I want the title bar text to be Lab 08. I want the form name to be Lab 08 form.cs. I want the starting position of the window of the form to be center screen. There's your stuff. Okay, I'll give you another 3 minutes. How about that? Since you have everything now. Go. And when you're done, put your hand up. You have until 5:06. I didn't catch it either. You get till 5:06. Go. And for those people watching online, just fast forward. Actually, if you're watching live, you can't fast forward. You just have to watch. But if you're watching this video again, you can go twice as fast. Go 2x instead of like the regular speed. Put me at squirrel speed. Make me talk like blah, 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 blah. I'm good. Who's done? Put your hand up. You're done? Good. Shouldn't take you long. It should take you minutes. Not even. All right? Put your hand up when you're done. Keep your hand up. Good exercise. Okay, it's okay. I got you guys. Put when you're done, the other guys, put your hand up when you're done. All right? I see some of the people that are done already. How about the girls in the back? Are you done? Yeah, you're done? Okay, I'm checking. Let's see. I'm going to check now. All right. Done? Run it. Done? Peter, right? Seven, right? Talk to each other. That's your turn. There's no way to spot which probability. I mean, it's better to write it in code. 1 minute. You guys should be all done by now, by far. Anyone not done, other than the ladies I talked to? All right, so most of you are done. Let's just say we'll cut it off at 5:05. So it's actually 2 minutes I gave you, not 3 minutes, right? It shouldn't even take you 2 minutes to do these changes. Let's go through them again, all right? And I'll leave this document up, so we'll do more of those things, all right? Okay, so let's do this. So properties. So I got my form. The first thing I'd like to do is change my name. So if you go, first of all, if you don't have properties up, this properties, you can always get it back by going to View, Properties window, okay? Let's bring up the Properties window for people who missed last day, okay? That's where you get all your properties that you see here. Notice that there's a couple of buttons. One of them is categories, okay? So if you change it to categories, that's pretty good. You can scroll down and it's organized by categories. I like it by alphabetical order because it makes it's easier for me, okay? That's properties. So that's how you do the changes. So if I was going to change the size, notice the size of my window is 822 by 506. I could go in here like this, or I could just type in here, 640 by 480. That's the first thing I want to change, okay? First, next, background color or the text. Actually, a lot of it's down here. Let's go for the text of the form. So I want to say lab 08. And lab 08 is actually the title bar text. That's right here. And I have that text property right here, okay? Start position is the next one, if you didn't get that. Start position is center screen. That's going to change it to center screen. So those are all next to each other right here in the bottom, right? And then I want to scroll up all the way to the top, and I want to change my form name. I could change it here. I don't recommend it. Actually, let's not do it here. I don't want to do that. Let's change my back color. Let's change my back color to light gray. Okay, so I just went to this pull down and I changed my background color to light gray. Okay? Yes. You want to make it faster, right? Yeah, no. So if I actually type like D in there or whatever, it's not going to work. Like if I click the property and go control box, nothing's going to happen. You know, I don't want that to happen, so let's leave it alone, okay? There is no quick hit. Yeah, it would be nice if there was, but there's not. There's nothing like that here, unfortunately. I wish there was, but there's not. What was that? Next, I want to go to my Solution Explorer for the lady in the back, right? And I want to change my form name. right? So here's my Solution Explorer. I want to right-click on my form name. I'm going to go to rename. And in my form name, I'm going to change it to Lab 08 Form. Please don't get rid of the CS. It'll break your application. All right, press Enter. And it's going to ask you, do you want to propagate these effects? I'll say yes. All right, now it's Lab 08 Form. I'm done. If I press Start, I should see this, Lab 08. It's centered in my screen. It's gray background, and it's called Lab 08 Form.cs. Okay, nice and easy. Guys, you should know how to do this in minutes, because on the test, right, I'm going to give you instructions, and it doesn't matter if you have open book. You're going to have a timed exercise. It's going to be a lot of things to do, right? And if you don't know how to properly use this, you don't practice, then you're going to be too slow, and you're going to lose marks for nothing. Okay, so try your best, attend to class, practice here, practice at home, and you can always follow the PowerPoints too. The PowerPoints tell you what to do too, okay? Okay, so now that we've got this part, that's part 1. 2, okay, I gotta write this down for people who can't listen along as much, right? Here's part 2. I want you to make a new label, right? I want you to name that label title label, right? I want you to put a new label, name title label on the top left corner of the form. Change the label size to 20. Change the text property to Lab 08. Go. That should be like a 30-second job. Well, it's got to be. It's got to be. No search.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, on the toolbox.
Yeah.
On the toolbox. For those people who don't know, for the lady in the back who's new, you know, if you go to on the left here, there's the toolbox, right? If you don't have the toolbox here, you can go to View Toolbox, and that's where you can find all the controls, which are here. Okay, these are all the controls. You can drag and drop them onto the form. Okay. Who's done? Yes, you should all be done by now.
Yeah.
What, the list? Come on. This is the simple list. Here. You're right. You need a list. It's fair. Or you can be good listeners, and then you don't need a list. By the way, do you know that there is a correlation between good marks and sitting at the front? It's true. I'm not lying. I'm not trying to make it up. I'm not telling you you're going to get better marks up here. I'm saying there's just a direct correlation. How far you sit back in the back, you get lower marks than if you sit in the front. Right? So for the ladies and gentlemen who like to sit in the back, come forward as much as possible next time, because no one is safe. I'm going to come talk to you and bother you anyway. Right? I'm going to ask you to show me, just like I did with the girl in the back. Right? I'm going to do that. It's coming. All right. Are we done now? Come on. This should be done. All right. Yes? Anyone not done? All right. So here we are. So here we got this thing. How do you do it? I want to take this label and pull it across. Right? Notice that these little crossbars that come up. Right? On my properties window again is contextual. So if I click on the label, it's different than when I click on the form. The form itself is just an object, right? And remember that it's being generated automatically by Visual Studio. If I click on label 1, I want to rename this label 1 at the top under the name. I want to call it title label, right? That's the first thing I would change. And then I want to change the font to 20, font size to 20, okay? There we go. I want to scroll all the way down now and go to the text and change the label to Lab 08. And now I'm done. It's that quick, guys. It should be 30 seconds, a 30-second job, right? Okay, now, new object. I want you to look at the left. We'll do this together, all right? On the left, there's a container. We're going to talk about a new container that we're going to learn today called group box, right? I'm going to take the group box and drag it across onto the form. Notice that these little control handles come up. I want you to put it just underneath the Lab 08 label, title label. And the group box has these control handles, these little blocks, around it, right? I want you to make it so that it goes all the way across the screen with a little bit of space, with that little helper that comes up, right? And I want you to make it go down, right, to approximately 200. So it should be 593 by 200. If you want to, you can go down to the size of the group box and change it to 593 by 200, right here. Why 593? Because it's 640 by 480, right? There's margin and padding inside this thing, right? And that takes away from the other 640 pixels. Okay, cool. So I've got this group box, and the group box, I want to rename it on the top. Let's do it together. We can change it to info group box. There's my info group box, right? And if I scroll all the way down, we can change this part to info. And you know, one thing I forgot, we want to make sure that the font of the little info message that comes up here, let's make it 10. And we'll also make it bold. You can change the bold property of the font property to true, which makes it bold. There it is, info. Now it's hard to see, but there's actually a little border that goes around this thing, okay? And if you wanted to see what this thing looks like, you know, it looks kind of like this. This is what it looks like. It's a box with inside the form. And it's a container because it separates items. I can put something in here. I can drag and drop in here as opposed to the back of the form. So can anyone guess why I would want to use things like group boxes? Yes. I could put them inside there, right? Yes. Yes. Radio buttons are a good use case. Sometimes I also want to be able to hide and show certain things on startup, right? And I can hide the entire group box, right? Which I'll show you in a second. Sorry? It could be a div. Think about it as a container, some kind of container, a div tag or a section or something like that, right? Okay, so I've got this group box, and now I want to drag in, let's do it together. I want to drag in a label. Here's my label. I want to drag it into the group box now. Notice how it drags in. I still have these little form controls. Notice how it also became 10 and bold by default, because whatever I give the group box, anything that's inside of it, the child control that's inside of it also takes on its properties. Okay? So I want to make this 20. So I want to go back down to font. I want to go back to font size 20. There it is. I want to change the name of my label to name label. Here's my name label. I want to scroll all the way down, and I want to change the text of my label, right, to enter name and a colon, like this. Okay? My label, yes. It's inside of my group box, and look what I can do with it. Once it's inside my group box, I can move the entire group box, and so too does the label move as a child object of the group box. Okay? That's why I like to group things together sometimes. Okay, we're going to see more of this later on. Okay, nice. We have our group box, an enter name. I want to add a new thing you've never seen before yet. It's called the text box. Here's a text box. It's inside the toolbox under common controls. I want to take this text box and drag and drop it over here on the left. This is an entry control. I can enter text in this thing, okay? But I need to configure it. Let's configure it. 1, I want to call this the name text box at the top. Name text box. There we go. I want to change the font size to 20. Same size as my label. Okay, and I want to move this up so it's aligned properly with the label. Let's check it. Make sure it's right. That's probably about right. All right, and then what I want to do is I want to extend this text box all the way to the right size of the group box. Here's my group box to the right of my group box. See? So I've got name text box and name label. Name label, that's the name. Name text box, that's the name. Remember so you can see my convention. Name text box, name label. Okay, I don't want to do this again. I just did all this configuration and design, and I also formatted it. I want to copy paste. So I want to kind of left click and then shift left click. That highlights both objects. Left click and then shift left click. Or you can just drag and highlight those two objects, all right, inside the group box, whatever you like, however you like to do it. But left click and shift left click, I can highlight as many objects as I want, okay? So I only want these two objects. I want left click and shift left click for this one. I want to copy. You can do the copy operation in your edit. You can go edit, copy, and then edit, paste. Or you can use Control-C and Control-V, which is a very common way of copy and pasting. So Control-C, Control-V. And now I have two. Why? It's very convenient to have the exact same styling on both things. I don't have to style it. I don't have to size it. I don't have to align it. It's all done for me. Yes. Yes, you can do that. Control plus mouse click is another way of doing it, which is like similar to Unity, actually. Right? Yes, that's a very good point. If I control dragged, so let's say if I highlight this one and control dragged, it'll also create that thing automatically too. Control drag is very convenient. All right? And we're going to do more of that. So here's control drag. I have these two things now. Notice when I do this, this is now label 1, and this is now text box 1. They're useless. We need to rename them. So first of all, what will this one be? This is going to be an age. So you notice that I'm going to say, instead of enter name, I'm going to say enter age. Okay, and so then this one will be the age label. And this one here, instead of just being a text box, will be the age text box. Oh, there you go, age text box. Now, if you don't like the alignment here because it looks like it's misaligned somehow, you could pull the label in towards the text box like this if you want. Be careful, because what you want to do is definitely, sometimes what you see is not what you get. So let's test it to see what it looks like. So if I run it, you should see something that looks like this. I know, it's not very exciting, but it's a good learning tool. All right, so good. We've got these two things. I've aligned it this way. That's okay. You might like it the other way. That's okay too. Right? And remember that if I have my group box, I can just move it around, the whole thing again now. I can do that, right? Here's a really good use of a tool of my group box. I can disable my entire group box. So if I look at my group box, I highlight that. I can go to enabled, this is a new property. I can say enabled is false. So it doesn't look like anything different in design time, but when I run it in runtime, guess what? It's grayed out. It's grayed out completely, yeah. Okay? And let's put it back. So I want to go from enabled, that's if I disable it, enabled is false. I can also make it invisible. I can say that my visibility is false. Let's try that. So if I run this now, you can see that it doesn't even appear at all. I can't see it. It's not there anymore for us to see. If I put it back, you can see now that it'll come back, right? So kind of very simple control. The toggle that's on and off, right? Okay, we're almost done. The initial user interface. And we need to do a commit soon because, you know, I'm getting nervous. What if my computer like burns or my dog eats it, something bad happens, I walk away and I get a virus, right? You know, I got like climate change, world's gonna end, you know, something like that, I don't know, right? So I want to make a commit, right? But first, let's finish our form, okay? So I want to go back to my button, right? Here's my button, and I'm going to drag my button onto the form. So I'm taking my button control and pull it in. I'm going to put it to the kind of bottom right corner, and I'm going to change the size of my button, my font size to 20 to make it the same. Let's do that. Let's make my button interesting. Make it a color on the background. I like to use some other kind of color. So I'm going to go, instead of light gray, I'm going to go to something like, Scroll down to the blues here. I'm going to go with a deep sky blue. Sure, let's do a deep sky blue. There we go. And I'm going to expand this. I'm going to change the name of my button to say submit, because this is going to be my submit button. There we go. And you can see that at the top, I need to change my button name to submit button. Submit button. Okay, but you can't even see the button, so I'm going to make it so you can see it. Here's my submit button, right? I'll make it a good size, like this. And let's test it, see if it looks okay. That's not bad, right? The button works, it looks okay. Okay, cool, guys, we finished off our user interface. And I've got names for everything. You know, I've aligned everything like I like. I'm happy. I'm going to save my project. And I'm going to go to Team Explorer now. Okay, if you don't have Team Explorer, or if you don't know where it is, Team Explorer normally is down here. But if you don't have it, you can go to View, Team Explorer. Okay, it's like the third or fourth one down. Then when you bring up Team Explorer, I want you to go to this little Home button on the top. See this little Home button? Go there, click onto it. And it should bring you to this thing that shows this little project. Are you with me? So Team Explorer, I went to View Team Explorer, that's where I got it from. I clicked on this little Home button at the top. It brought me here. Okay? And then I'm going to click on Changes. Click on Changes, guys. Notice I have a bunch of changes. These changes are the ones that are being tracked. I know my Visual Studio made an initial commit. If you don't have these, it's because you did not add to source control, right? Like I asked you to. If you need to add to source control, you can go to Solution, right-click on your solution, and then there's going to be an option down here that says Add to source control. Okay, so if you haven't done it yet, you need to do it now. Next, back to Team Explorer. I'm going to put a friendly message. So I'm going to say completed initial user interface for Lab 08. That's what I did. I completed my initial user interface. Okay, it's not great, but it's initial. Then I'm going to click Commit All. My Commit All button, it does exactly what I just told you it was going to do. It does. Git add dot. That's what's happening right here. Git commit -m, and then instead of initial commit, it's going to say completed initial UI for Lab 8. That's what it does. And when I click this button, it's going to add my commit into the repository. Let's do that now. So I'm going to click Commit All. Okay, good. And look, it says commit 298C471B. That's the commit number. It made it. I'm going to click on Home, the Home button again. I'm going to go to Sync. And then I'm going to go here where if you downloaded the tool properly, it's going to show you this. If you don't see this, then you didn't download the tool properly. You didn't go to Tools, Extensions, and Updates and download GitHub for Visual Studio. You won't see these options. You'll see maybe only this one and this one. Okay? So here, if you have this option, just click on Publish to GitHub. If you click on Publish to GitHub, you can choose your account, and it automatically puts in the name of your repository based on your project name, which is correct. Then all you need to do is press Publish. What this does in the background, it does this. It says, Git remote add origin, right? http://, right? HTTPS actually. GitHub.com / the name of your account / the name of your repo. That's what it does. And then it does this, git push -u, origin master. It does all that in the background for you, right? Now that I've done this, my repository is created successfully. If I go back to GitHub and take a look there, let's refresh, you can see now that I have a lesson 8A. And if I look at lesson 8A, you can see that this is my stuff right now. I've got 3 commits, 2 from Microsoft, add project files, at gitignore, git active. That's what Microsoft did for me with Visual Studio. And then this is mine, completed initial UI for Lab 08. If I click on the code button up here, code tab, it takes me back to the code. Are you with me? That's our first commit. We just made a commit. Guys, you're almost there to finishing your lab. All right? Yeah. Yes. You wouldn't want to do that. You want to make a new repository for every project, right? So you wouldn't want to normally, unless you had one big repository that had every project inside of it, right? But I mean, it's up to you, right? But you want to separate them into separate projects, right? And this way, one project doesn't mess up the other one, right? How do I know what Git was that it added? Well, if I go to commits, it tells me that I have completed initial UI for lab 8, and if I click on this, it shows me the stuff I've changed. These are all the changes. The commit. Init. What? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding you. Oh, git ignore. Okay. What's inside the git ignore? Visual Studio makes, okay, guys, I have a question about git ignore. I didn't have that question so far, but git ignore, what it is a file. It's .gitignore. And inside that file, you can specify what you want Git to ignore. You don't want Git to look at some files. And Visual Studio has a bunch of garbage files that it generates for you. One of them is the .vs file. You don't want that to go up because it's big and fat, right? And there's a lot of other garbage files. You can specify which files you don't want to add in. And Microsoft Visual Studio does it for you. They have a default git ignore file that they attach to every project. That's what it is. Yeah, it ignores it. If you actually look in there, you can see that these are the ignores that it added in. These are all things that it's ignoring, right? Okay, one more thing, guys. You may have got a message that says, log into GitHub for the first time. It might give you a login message. Make sure you put in your login username and your email, and then you're gonna have to put in your password for one time. You do this one time. Once you've done your username and password one time in Visual Studio, it's done. It remembers, okay? That's a really good thing. So now after today, if you did everything properly, you'll never have to do that again, okay? Let's go back. So now we've done our first commit, and we're good. I'm gonna add some more things now. We want this to work. We want this to work. So here's my new instructions to you, all right? So when a user enters their name and age, the data, which is string and float, should be captured in class properties. Okay, that's the first instruction. When a user enters their name and age, the data should be captured in class properties. This should only happen if the submit button is pressed. As a developer, you should ensure that only numerical data, is entered into the age text box. Okay? Those are your instructions. So when a user enters their name and age, the data, string and float, should be captured in a class properties. This should only happen if the submit button is pressed. Ensure that only numerical data is entered into the age text box. Any questions around this? These are your instructions. Imagine if you got this on a test or on an assignment. You should know what to do. What do you do here? How about the girl in the back who's looking at her phone? Do you know what to do? Yeah? What do you do? Tell me what to do. Help me out. Why don't you come up here and code with me? Let's go. Yeah? I thought so. All right? Anybody else have any questions around this? These are your instructions. Imagine this is if you're talking to a client and they said, this is what I want you guys to do. And the client wrote this down on a paper napkin or something and said, this is what I want my app to do. Like, you need to understand, is there any questions you have about this? When you do requirements gathering for your application development, you should always ask questions. What do you mean by that? Tell me more. What do you mean by capturing data? How does this work? Right? Was that? Okay. So let's think about this. Who's done? You're done? Yeah. Yeah. And if I put an A inside of your inside your age text box, is it going to break the code? Try it. Yeah, it's going to break. Yeah. This isn't guys. This is not a 5-minute fix. This is not 5. This is the rest of the time we have together. These 3 little things I've asked you to do are actually they can be quite difficult and long. Let's do it together. All right. So first things first. By the way, if you're online, you could have tried this yourself. If you're watching the video again, try doing it without my solution. Here's the solution though that I would do. 1, I want to double click on my submit button, which creates a space inside my code automatically that has this little area right here. It creates the code for me, right? And I can // to add a comment that says this is the event handler for the submit button click event. Okay, that's the first thing. And this up here, might as well add some comments here too. This is the default constructor. Okay, there's a submit button. Okay, so I asked you guys to have 2 properties. Does anyone know how to do a quick shortcut to create properties in Visual Studio? What's a shortcut to create properties? Prop, P-R-O-P. You type P-R-O-P and press tab, it creates the property. All right. Then you can change the type to string, and if you tab over, you can change the name to something like username. Okay, so that's my username property. Let's make another one. Prop, tab. I want to change the type to float. I want to tab over, and I want to change the name to user age. All right, so there you go. I got 2 properties, guys. So these properties are important because they have getters and setters. Right now, they're the quick hit properties. So I can add more details. I can expand these things and add my own getters and setters if I want. Okay, or I can keep them the same like this. They're public. Next, I want to assign, for the beginning at least, the value of my text box. I want to assign it to each of the properties. Now we're going to have a problem. Let's find this out. I can say that my username is easy, right? Username is equal to, so name text box, very good, .text. That's easy to do, right? That's the first one. Yay, fantastic. And let's add the next one. My age, my user age, right, is equal to, let's try this again, age text box .text. Okay, I have a problem and we have to convert. Okay, there's 3 ways that I can convert. What are the 3 ways that I can convert my age text box .text into a float? What are the 3 ways? You should know 3 ways. This comes from, I could cast as 4 ways. There's 4 ways that you could use to convert things to, that's good though, from string to a float. How do I do it? What's the one way? You said convert. So I could use convert to, right? I can use the convert .to, and it's got to be to single because single is a float, right? So I could do this. This is one way. Convert to single, and this converts my string to a float. Or that's way number 1. So let's call this like option A. Option A. How about option B? Let's copy everything here and then do it again, but slightly differently. I could say I want to parse float. Oh, I like that. Parse dot. Oh, what the heck? I like when it does that. Parse float. That's what I want. Let's do it in another part and type it in. Parse dot. What the heck? Like a parse int, parse float. Float dot parse. That's what I meant to do. I'll be okay. Parse int. I'm thinking about a totally different thing. It's actually float dot parse. That's the other one. And I want to float dot parse this. That's the other option. Float dot parse. And why is it going to be an issue? That's one way of doing it. So that's option B. So float.parse. Okay, option C. Let's do option C. I could do, no, this is way more complicated, but I could do try-parse, right? Float.try-parse. Now, a try-parse doesn't just take this. It also needs some kind of other thing. So I would have to make like some kind of temp float, and then I would have to assign it to that temp float out temp float. I could do this, and then this wouldn't be user age anymore. User age would actually be down here. User age is equal to temp float. I could also make a Boolean. This would be a Boolean, which I could just define here as bool results is equal to, this is it, okay? And so I can do that. That's type C. That's a thing, actually. Try-parse is actually really cool because if result is false, that means it didn't work, and it doesn't throw an error. Okay, that's pretty cool. And the last one, which I don't recommend, option D, which is, well, I could do something like this. I could do, let's take this thing and put it over here, and I could do something like, let's cast this thing as a float, right? I kind of could do this, but not, right? I mean, I could try it. It says represents a single, because it cannot convert string to float. And I could also try different ways. I could try doing it like this with different marks, you know, kind of convert this to float. I could try and do like float. There's other ways to do the same thing where you put the whole thing in a float. None of them work, right? Option D is a null for C#. It works in other languages though. All right, so really there's three ways. Like I said, these are the three ways. My recommendation is do a float parse. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it. Convert to single is okay. Convert's a good option as well. Convert's a little bit of a bigger, it's a little fatter of a class. It does other things too, right? So I don't like to use it. I usually like to use option B. That's just my preference. One of these two is fine, okay? Option C is a little bit wordy. It's great, but we can use a try-catch instead, which we'll do later on today. This will be my option A. All right, so I've done this, but I still have a problem. I said that I want to convert it into text, from text to float, and that's okay because if I do this now, I can see that I can enter in COM, and then I can go into age. Here's a problem too. Look how it kind of tabs weird. Look, it kind of does one of these. Look, it kind of tab, and then that's bad, right? That's a bad way of doing things. So I could do tab and then 30, and then that would kind of work. Okay, but what if I did like A? That would break, right? So I got to stop that from ever happening, right? I don't want to have, you know, me to have this problem. It would be an issue, right? I could do get set. Let's try other things. Let's go back to again, this is your solution could be totally different than mine. And that's fine. I accept those things as long as they work. On your assignment, you may have the same kind of request, right? So let's take a look here. So I've got this part. First of all, I noticed my tabbing doesn't work properly. Here's something. My tab index is 1. Next one is my tab index is also 1, right? Tab index, you can change the tab index so it tabs properly. This tab index should be 2, right? So this is 1. And this is 2, and this should be 3. So 1, 2, 3, my tab index. This is very important because it allows you to control stuff with your keyboard, okay? So now if I run this thing, you can see that I can go tab, and it'll tab into your submit button. But here's the question. Do I ever want to be able to submit something that is incorrect? The answer should be no, right? I should never be able to submit everything. Submit should be disabled until I'm ready, right? So let's do that. How do I make it so that submit is disabled on form load? I could use a start method like I did last time, but might be the better way to do it would be the load event for the form. Let's try that. So if I double click on the back of the form somewhere like this, I can have this new load event for the form, right? Correct. So I can take this whole thing, let's move it up, because I think I like my load events to happen way up here, like underneath my instructor. I just moved it up here. You can move your methods any way you want, all right? So this would be, this is the event handler for the lab 08 form load event, okay? And then, I know I'm being really wordy with my comments, but that way you understand what they are, all right? And then in the load, I can say that my submit button dot enabled is equal to false, right? So by default, my button is false, not enabled. Now I need to enable it somewhere. And I'm going to enable that when I double click on, if I double click on my text box, it's not going to be the text event because a text box is a text box. It's not a button. It's going to give me a different kind of event. Let's double click on it and see what happens. It gives me this, a text changed event, which means anytime I change the text inside the text box, this event triggers. Every time, 1 character, 2 characters, 3 characters, enter, anything I do, it updates the text changed event, right? Or accesses it. Okay, this is the events handler for the age text box, text changed event. Okay, that's what it is. And in here, what I want to say is if my text is changed and I have some kind of input, for now, I want to enable it. Any input. Later, we're going to fix the input. For now, I want to just test this. So I want to say that my submit button dot enabled is equal to true. For now. It's wrong still, but we're going to fix it. All right, let's try this out now. So if we did this, so I made a text changed event. That's new. We never did that before. And we never did a load event. That's a new thing. A load event is for the whole form. The form itself has different events in its life cycle. Load is one of the form events for the form life cycle. Okay? There's many of them. For example, the form load event only triggers once, right? But you can have lots of other kinds of events. Maybe if I minimize the form and then bring it back, I want something else to trigger again. That is another event, right? If I maximize, that's another event. If I move the form somewhere, that's another event. I can do all those things over and over again, right? So the form itself has different events. And this text change event, notice that it automatically went here instead of me having to choose which one it was inside that lightning bolt thing, right? It knows that it's a text box. I don't want to click on a text box. I want to change the text on the text box, and that's the default event. Okay? Let's try this out and see if it works. So if I go here, now you can see that it's disabled. I can't click on this, my submit button. And then if I go to Tom and type anything, even an A, right, it will allow me to submit. But now it's still going to crash. Okay? So this is part 2. So I can control whether it's enabled or disabled by what I type. Okay, next. Here's the solution. Now, here's where I got to think. I got to make sure that when I type something in my text box, it has to be able to be parsed. Can I parse it somehow? So again, you can use a try parse here. You can use try catch here. Okay? And there's other things you can do too. I recommend a try catch. This is what it would look like. And you guys should know about try catch, yeah? So try, and then tab. It gives you your try catch, like this. We don't need this part right now. We don't care about this. It'll catch everything. We don't need the throw either. What we want to say is, if I can parse, can I parse my age text box.text? Can I do this? Can I float.parse my age text box.text? If it's true, if this works, then make it enabled as true. Otherwise, keep it false. So this is a really good solution for it. Now, the only thing is a little bit fat because what's happening here is I'm constantly checking. Every time I touch that button, I constantly check. There's another way to do this that's a little bit later, okay? Does this make sense to you? So try catch, the try block says, try and do this. Try and float parse this text box. If it's an A or some weird a non-numeric character, it's going to fail. And it's going to take us to this part right here. All right? If it passes, it's going to submit enabled, and it's going to skip this part. Okay? Let's try it. So if I do it, and if I say, okay, cool, here's my, Tom, and if I type in spacebar, it's still, look, it says exception thrown, system form exception, right? But I didn't do anything. I can keep doing this, and it's going to keep throwing exceptions, but I'm catching them. I'm managing the exceptions, right? And the only time it's going to stop is if I type in 3. Now you can see that I can submit it. Or if I go back, can I submit it again? No, because it's nothing that I can parse, right? So I can say 30.5, and if I click submit, it's going to work. It didn't cancel out anymore. So that's pretty good. So my try catch is working fine. This is the first part of exception handling. I know we're supposed to hit exception handling later on, but like I told you, we're going to hit exception handling throughout the course. All right, so are we good with this so far? Okay, but we don't know what's been sent. We want to confirm that things are being sent, and we don't have an output. We don't have a console, and we're probably not going to use a console very often in the second half of the semester. So let us make another label. I want you to take, let's say, one of the labels, like enter age. I want you to copy it and paste it, and I want you to drag it down here. And I want you to go to your properties for a second for enter age, and I want you to change the auto size property to false. Auto size property to false. All right, and I want you to drag this thing across, and let's make sure it aligns with the button. There we go. And what I want to do is I want to call this form the output label, or this label the output label. I guess you're an expert then. You do have time. You have until midnight tonight to fix it and to submit this for marks, okay? Good luck. And at the bottom, instead of having text have something in it, let's just get rid of it. Let's get rid of the text altogether, right? And then you can see that the label is invisible. So this is going to be a place where we're going to have some output. That's what it's going to be. But what if I click away? I don't even know where the label is. How do I find it again? If you look at the top part of the form, you can actually see all the objects that are, or the controls that are on your form. If I want to find the output label, just go there, output label. And you can just click on there, and then it highlights the output label. Okay, final thing. When I click the submit button, a couple things have to happen, right? I want to clear my text boxes, because it doesn't look like anything is happening right now, right? My text box is clear, and my output label prints out what I entered in my name text box and what I entered in my age text box. Do I have to write that out for you, or can you do it? Okay. Let's try this again together, right? So I'm going to go to here. When I click submit, I want to clear my text boxes. There's a really quick way to do this. I can do this, look. So name text box dot clear and age text box dot clear. Okay, so those things actually clear the text boxes. But before I do that, I want to make my output label dot text equal to my name text box dot text plus some kind of space plus my age text box dot text. There we go. Okay, so that will output everything into the form. Now, wouldn't it be nice if I was to put this into its own method? How did we extract the method last time? Do you guys remember? It's like this. You highlight the two lines, you right-click, and you go to Quick Actions and Refactorings. and then you choose extract method. And what it allows you to do is to type this. For example, maybe you want to say clear form. We'll call it clear form, and then press apply. So now this clear form method is going to be called here, and I can call it again somewhere else. So I can say something like, this method clears the text boxes on the form. And let's say resets other data, other properties. It's almost like a reset, if you will, right? All right, so it does this, it clears the form, and if I run this thing, it should work. Let's see if it works. So I enter my name, and my age, 30, and if I click submit, it prints it out, right? That's what you should get, okay? And notice it cleared this part off, right? Cleared it. Oh, man, I mean, I can't submit anymore. That's true. I could go here. It'd be nice, you know, if I can do that, but maybe what I want to do is I want to do this clear form, right? I want to do clear form and in the beginning when I load my form. Like when I load my form here in my load event, I want to clear my form and change my submit button to false. Let's do that too. So I take this submit button is equal to false, put it as part of my clear form, and then call my clear form up here inside my load event. This is good practice because you're cleaning up your form. When you come in, everything is disabled, it's right, and I can call it again. Again, it runs the exact same way, right? However, we have a problem. What about if I just enter my age? Can I do that? Can I just go 30 and then submit? I can. That doesn't make any sense. I need to make sure that I have a minimum amount of minimum size for my name before I submit. Now this becomes a difficult challenge. Why? Because I need both those two things to be true. I need the name to have a value and I need the age to have a value that's valid. How do I do that? Well, if I only wanted the age to have a value or name, either or, right? As long as one of them is true, I could do the same thing I did last time. I could double click on the name with a name text change event. I could do this. This is on is the event handler for the name text box text changed event. Text changed event. That's what it's for. And I could do something like this. I could say, well, okay, unless I have at least 2 characters in the first name, make sure it's disabled. I must have 2 characters in the first name, right? Because, you know, you could have a name like Al, right? Or something like that. From Alan, Al, Alvin, Al, right? So if I did that, I would look like something like this. I would say that I could make it if else, but now this is a good case for a ternary operator, all right? I could say something like this. I could say that the submit button dot enabled, right, is equal to, let's check to see if my length of my name text box dot text dot length. Why can I check that? Because text is a string, and I can check the length property of the string. If it's greater than 2, then if it's greater than 2, how about we say greater than or equal to 2, right? Then it's true. Otherwise, false. Now I did that slightly different last time, but that's the same. Does that make sense to you? So it's like one line, it's a ternary operator and says, okay, make my submit button either true or false, depending on whether or not the length of my name is 2 or more characters. However, this is not going to solve the problem, guys, because if I run this thing and I say, okay, its submit is false now, right? And I enter 1 character and I tab into this one and type in 30. Oh, it worked. Because the second one, right? Both must check on the other somehow. And this is a problem. Why? Because you have 2 different events. There's 2 different events running at the same time. the text changed event for my name and the text changed event for my age. They both must be running at the same time. And how do I do that? Shared event. One method that triggers both things from firing, right? We're not going to cover that today. I'm going to cover that when we come back from break, because I want you guys to, there's a lot I'm giving you tonight, right? And I don't want you to be completely crazed with all the stuff I'm giving you, right? I'm just being honest, there's a lot already, right? So yes, it would work, but we want to check both. So what can we do instead? If instead of making a single event, that's the easy solution. What we could do is we could use Booleans. We could say that, okay, well, if this is on, then, you know, we could do that. That's one we can say, check both. If I do this one, I want to check that this one's okay. It's good, right? And if I do this one, I want to check that this one's okay. And if both have to be okay in order for it to work, right? So that's possible. I could also check that both things, I could check both things in both methods, and that requires me to do what? Have another method, right? That I call twice, actually, right? So we're going to leave it here. Let's do because all I care about today really is your GitHub stuff. So let's do that, all right? If I go further, you guys are gonna like, I've already lost some of you. People left, right? So, you know, I don't want more people leaving. So let's just continue, right? So let's go back to my Team Explorer. So now we've got everything, and I want to click on Home for my Team Explorer, and I want to click on Changes, and you can see that I've got my changes here. Right? These are my changes. So I'm going to say something like completed initial version of Lab 8. I kind of made it happen. It's kind of done, kind of, right? Sure, I can make it more, I can do more input validation. Sure, there's things I can do to make it nicer. But for now, I think it's as far as I want to take it tonight, right? Without making people walk out, right? So this is good. I'm going to click commit all. I'm going to click commit all, which commit makes my commit. Now look, there's also this little quick hit right here called sync. Take a look, right? So once I do my commit, there's a little button over here. It's like a link. And if I click sync, it actually takes me to this, and I can just push. So now I've pushed to master, and I've pushed a bunch of times. Let's take a look at what my GitHub looks like. If I refresh, I have 4 commits. 2 that I did, one from when I completed my initial UI, and then the second one when I completed my version of Lab 08. Okay? It should start making sense to you now. All right. How do I submit this thing for my lab? Let's do it now, guys. If you submit now, you have no work to do tonight. There's no homework. All right? Let's just do that now, right? So no homework. How do we do that? All right. Online, it tells you what to do. It says, okay, if you haven't done so already, register for GitHub. We did that. Download and install Git. We did that. Set up the GitHub plugin for Visual Studio. We did that. Configure Visual Studio to work with GitHub. We did that. Create commit for your exercise. We did 2 commits. We did that. Sync and push to GitHub. We did that too. So we did all these things. Yay! Now submission. Create a text file. Guys, create a text file. Could be a Word document too if you want. Whatever one. All right. Copy the link to your project repo on GitHub into your text file. What do I mean by project repo? I mean this link up here for this repo, not your account. Don't give me this repo. This is your account. That means every repo will come with you. I don't want this. I want this. Or you can get it here in your little link right here. Here or here. It's the same thing. I'm okay with that. But I want this in a text file. Are we good? Thank God. And then I want you to go back to my instructions, which are here. And it says, copy the link to your text file, and then name the text file something like COMP123 S2019 Lab 8. Okay? And then attach the text file to the submission box when you submit this thing in here. And then submit. That's how you submit it. From now on, guys and girls, no paper. I'm not going to give you a paper exam. I'm not going to give you paper assignments. I'm not going to give you any paper at all. We don't do paper from now on, okay? We do e-centennial. That's the right way to do it, okay? Paper was for the beginning, to get you going. When you do your tests at the end of semester, there's going to be a random section just for you that's different than everybody else, right? So you're going to have time to do some common sections like everyone else has, and there's going to be some sections that only you have, right? That's how it's going to be. So don't worry about cheating or anything like that because it's impossible. Okay, that's number one. Also, we should talk about, because now you should submit, please submit. This is your lab time. Submit your lab 8 for marks. If you do it now, you'll get full marks if you did what I asked you to do, okay? You can also do it until midnight for people who left, for people who didn't come to class, for people who came earlier in the day and didn't understand how to do it. You can submit later tonight by midnight, okay, for full marks. But after midnight tonight, it closes, okay? There's no more after tonight. One thing I should talk about also is what's remaining in the semester, which I kind of did in reverse order with the other groups, all right? So if I look at COMP123, here's the course outline. Let's finish this off, guys, and then you can go, okay? So you guys have done serialization and deserialization, classes and objects, writing files, right? You guys done inheritance and polymorphism. Someone's loud, eh? Someone's yelling. I don't know what that is. That me? Do I sound like that? Hold on a second. All right. Sorry about that. That little bit of an interruption. People are yelling outside for some reason. Yeah, so we did inheritance and polymorphism. We didn't do unit testing yet. That's coming. So that's going to come near the end of semester. We're going to do that. Gentlemen? Gentlemen? Hi. Unit testing. We're going to do that by the end of semester. Notice that week 8, this week, was supposed to be our test. We didn't do that. We did that last week, right? So we're a bit ahead in some ways, right? So week 9, which is when you come back from break, was supposed to be UI. We did that this week, right? So we did UI, some basic controls and all that stuff, right? It says assignment 3, but you've already done assignment 3. There's 2 more assignments to be done, assignment 4 and assignment 5. Guys, to be successful for your test, you need to do assignment 4 and 5. It's going to be user interface controls. It's going to be some extra stuff. We're going to get more complex with the 2 assignments. There's going to be 2 big ones, right? And then it's individual. You do it by yourself, and then you'll be set up nicely for your tests. If you do your assignments, your tests will be like an assignment. If you don't do your assignments, your tests will be impossible. I'm telling you right now, all right? I don't know a better way to say that, right? It'd be impossible, right? Huh? What was that? I don't know. I mean, you gotta do your test. You just gotta do your assignments. Do your assignments, and you're gonna be fine. Yeah. If you do your assignment, the assignment will train you how to do your test. Okay? If you don't do your assignments, you'll be like looking at the test, going, "What do I do now? Oh my God, I only have an hour and a half, and I have to do these 20 things, right? For 10 marks, you know, that kind of thing." And there's a lot more than 10 marks. Okay, so then we're going to hit collections. So after next week, we're going to start hitting collections, generics, delegates, and lambda expressions. And around delegates and lambda expressions, I'm probably going to add something to do with link. And most likely, I'm going to use some kind of database, local database we're going to play with, okay? It's not a database course, but we need to play with the database in order for you to understand how to do full CRUD operations, all right? That's around week 12 or week 11, something like that, okay? And then finally, we're going to do more exception handling and user unit testing, which we're going to hit at the end, okay? And then finally, your test, yes? So which one? Oh, queues and stacks and stuff like that? Yeah, that's going to be around the collection area. That's going to be like next class we get together, right? Queues and stacks and lists, all those kind of things. And more around collections. You need to understand more about collections. Dictionaries, what are they? And then how do they work with lists that are inside your user interface? Remember, there's no more command line. We do no more console applications. We do everything with the user interface, okay? And we're also going to learn about multiple forms, how to do multiple forms, how to go from one form to the other and back, right? How to make one form start before the other form, a start form. We're going to do some timers. We're going to do a splash screen. We're going to make character generator, right? We're going to do all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? So all these things are going to be done, right, over the next part of the semester. So please stay tuned. Has everyone handed in their Lab 8? Hand it in. Anyone not handed in the Lab 8? Do it now. Do it now. Okay, that's it for me, guys. I'm going to stop recording now. What we'll do is we'll get back to, I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. No class next week, like we said. Next week is your intersession break, and then we'll come back the week after. Okay? Oh yeah, we see you on Friday, but not the other guys. Yeah, I see you guys on Friday. Because you guys will actually be the first group that starts off the new section. Yeah. I'll see you guys Friday. That's right. Thanks, guys. Let me just stop recording.